2017 AUDL playoffs continue tonight on a gorgeous Saturday evening in Madison. Here at Breese Stevens Field, the Madison Radicals looking to get back to championship weekend for the 5th year in a row as they host the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds in the Midwest Division Final. This is spot number 2 in championship weekend on the line. Dallas, the first team to clinch its trip to Montreal with a victory in Raleigh earlier this afternoon. And tonight it'll be either Madison or the underdog Pittsburgh joining the Roughnecks in Canada. And with that, we welcome you in. So great to have you with us. She's Megan Tormey. I am Evan Lepler. And so it's 3 years in a row that it's been Pittsburgh and Madison for the Midwest crown. Last year, a 3-point game. Before that, a 4-point game. So will the third time be the charm for Pittsburgh?
Well, they have to come out strong for that even to be a possibility. They really struggled getting up to gear, especially when they're on the road. So it's going to come down to whether or not they can come out with a united front very strong.
That was the point David Hogan, the head coach of the Thunderbirds, made to us before the game. For this Radicals team, they think they're peaking at the right time after a bumpy first couple months of the season. Do you think they're playing their best ultimate?
I do. All of the pieces have really come together at the appropriate time, and now it comes down to just functioning. Their offense is going to expect a lot of defensive switches from Pittsburgh, so if they can keep the eye on which lane is actually open, they stand a chance of seamlessly working the disc down the field.
Well, this Madison team has what they think is its best roster of the season today, and you see the offensive line with Barker, Camp, Kevin Brown, Pat Trywise, Andrew Brown, Tom Annan, and Ben Nelson, the starting 7 for head coach Tim DeBile. The Radicals, a year ago, went undefeated in the regular season, were perfect until that fateful Saturday night championship weekend here in this facility. But the Radicals enter tonight's game with a 33-game winning streak at home against divisional foes that they look to continue this evening. You could not ask for a better night for Ultimate.
Absolutely not. And the fans are filing in for this, which is undoubtedly a very exciting rematch we have seen time and time again playoff weekend.
These two teams played twice in the regular season, most recently in Pittsburgh on June 17th, where Madison won 22-21. Xavier Maxstad picks up Ben Nelson. It's Carl Morgenstern chasing Pat Trywise. Trywise so valuable for this Madison team. His stats a little bit down this year compared to past years, but certainly a big weapon for the Radicals. Andrew Brown keeps possession alive.
Madison looking very conservative this first offensive possession, being careful not to force anything. They know that it's going to come down to playing perfect offense to win this game.
This is a Radicals team that through the years has shown they're willing to be boring. That was a pretty boring 57 seconds, but it culminates exactly the way Tim DeBile wanted it to with an easy offensive hold.
Nothing boring about the results, though. Noticed how many times they looked downfield and saw they potentially had a receiver. Most notably, I thought they were going to hit Nelson, who was streaking down into the end zone, but Barker held onto the disc, opted instead to swing it around. And then notice what they ended up with was just a nice, easy shot to Brown straight down the middle of the end zone.
They're glad to have Kevin Brown back on the field. A tough bruise on his heel hurt him throughout much of the season. Even when he was healthy enough to play, he struggled to be at 100%. Peter Graffi launches the Radicals' first pull of the day. This Pittsburgh offense will not have Tyler DiGirolamo tonight. The superstar is inactive after experiencing some hamstring tightness last week. But in the Thunderbirds' victory last Friday night, Meagles, a 1-point come-from-behind win against Minnesota. The story was how the offense really turned it on in the second half.
Yeah, they had been lackluster, to say the least, making a lot of very repetitive mistakes, hucking it deep to ill-advised That's a Vats injury that's taking him off the field. But back to their previous game, they were making a lot of hucks to individuals who were pretty tightly covered, didn't have very good separation. It wasn't until the second half that they started shutting down those mistakes, hitting their open players underneath, that their offense really started to gel.
Less than 90 seconds in the game, and David Vats to the sideline. David Hogan was expecting him to play a key role for this Pittsburgh offense. Tough grab to keep possession alive. That's Jimmy Toll. Mark Fedorenko. And he turns it over. Intended for Jonathan Mast. An early break chance for the Radicals. So far, Meagles, we're seeing pretty good patience from the Radicals D-line until now. Meshnik shoots it. Marty to Pettit Scantling. 2-0 Madison.
In their last game against Pittsburgh, Madison was not always great at savoring the opportunities given to them by Pittsburgh. That particular throw from Meshnik looked like it was about to die too soon, but Marty dug deep, slid on his knees to catch the goal, to catch right outside the goal line, and then a streaking KPS was his easy option.
We've seen year after year after year this Madison defense build strings of breaks. And it's a really tough decision for an opposing head coach. Okay, you just got broken. Do you throw back out the offensive line that just got beat? Or do you put 7 fresh bodies that aren't used to receiving a pull? It's a really tough call.
I think this early in the game it'd be wise to put the same offensive line out simply because they've got to get looks against this Madison defense. Madison came out understanding that it was very important for them to take away the break side. Pittsburgh has to learn to use the open lane, and they have to do so quickly.
Hogan goes with the D-line, led by Xavier Maxstad. Anson Repperman, one of the league leaders in Ds for the season, had some huge plays in the fourth quarter last week against Minnesota. Not much cutting downfield, pretty good movement in the handler set so far. Maxstad to Morgenstern. Luffs the backhand for Van Dusen, beats the double team to Repperman. Repperman launches. A lot of sauce on that, too much.
It looked almost like the wind just lifted that disc out of Trimble's fingers. Another potentially costly miscue from Pittsburgh.
Graffy launches a gigantic flick downfield. Chris Weiland on the receiving end. Oh goodness, that might have been intended for the crossfield target, and it was Seth Meyer who went for it, so that's a break for Pittsburgh. Tracked down by Mogielski, and a 2-on-1. Ferdella joined by Van Dusen. Not the most convincing hold from a visiting team here at Breese Stevens Field, but an important goal to break the ice.
Right, had Madison gone up 3-0, Pittsburgh really would have been setting the stage for a difficult task. Of course, we did see them come back from an even greater deficit in Minnesota, but part of that story was that Minnesota was definitely fatigued by the end of the fourth quarter. I don't think Madison is going to be equally as fatigued towards the end of this game.
This Pittsburgh team has certainly been bolstered by its college core. Van Dusen catching his 12th goal in 9 games. This is his 9th game for Pittsburgh. Van Dusen, Morgenstern, and Toll all played 8 games entering today, and they all entered plus 16. So they've each done things well when they've been out there on the field. Dave Wiseman and Avery Johnson, 2 fresh members of the Madison O-line, which is going to run 9 deep tonight. Tim DeBile said he wants to keep everybody fresh. Sometimes Madison takes the field with 7 or 8 O-line guys. Tonight they're giving them a little extra legs. Nice use of the break side. There's Johnson, the former Wisconsin Hodag, to another former Hodag, to another former Hodag. And Andrew Brown with a rare turnover gives Pittsburgh a chance to break back. Van Dusen launches. Oh, it's Thomas rising up, but back on the throw. A travel was called, so this will come back. Alex Thomas using his position and elevating with a little Coco Gadget legs to make this grab.
Man, what a fantastic grab. So sad for Pittsburgh that they're not able to keep a catch that great.
And now the double team. Van Dusen goes crossfield. That's a nice throw using about a 45-yard crossfield flick. Tranquilo.
Very quickly, they are well out of the end zone.
Can Thomas do it twice in the same point? You better believe it. He didn't need a trampoline this time, but he read it well, and the Thunderbirds break back a crucial counter punch. He got try-wise the first time and camped the second time. Alex Thomas, a graduate of the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Missed most of last season with an injury, and then they were excited about him this year. Then he tore a ligament in his thumb and missed some time. David Hogan saying before the game it's very important to have him back, and you can see why.
Yeah,
one of the unknown weapons in the Midwest Division. 2
very athletic plays back-to-back, showing how well he can read the disc, even with pretty intense Madison pressure.
So this is basically the Madison D-line after the O-line was broken. Ross Barker needs a reset. It was intended for Graffy, but Logan Pruce saves it. Pettit, Scantling, Meshnick, Hart downfield. And again, we've seen Peter Graffy take over points as the quarterback for this D-line.
It really looks as though he's choosing his shots wisely, but keeping a very open eye way downfield.
Jaden Scullion to Graffy to KPS. Brian Hart, rather, in the end zone for the Radicals.
It's a bit of a defensive mishap when you leave someone like KPS unguarded in the end zone. He was there unbothered for about 2 passes. He didn't even have to run up to the disc. He was standing still, open hands for the reception.
One thing to note, we've seen both teams try to use the double team a lot these first 5 points.
The nice thing about the double team is that it can really throw a stick in the wheel of a team's offense, because just as they're winding up to crank out a throw, suddenly the second body jumps in front, making you think twice. And that hesitation reverberates. It makes it very difficult to generate momentum again.
Stick in the wheel sounds dangerous. Max Thorne. Wow. Not sure who that was intended for, but it found Ethan Beardsley. Pat Earls with his first shot, looking Fedorenko's way, and that is a good sign if you're a Pittsburgh fan. Pat Earls, one of the streakiest players in the league. When he's on, he can be so tough to stop. When he's off, he can really hurt his team's chances of winning.
Right now, the long game seems to be working in the favor of Pittsburgh. They are doing a fantastic job of stretching the field. Fedorenko, an easy target on a good day, got quite a bit of separation from his Madison defender. This is uncontested throws in the end zone. I'm a little bit surprised that Madison's defense isn't a little more bothersome downfield so far.
Van Dusen will initiate the pull here for the Thunderbirds. This Pittsburgh team went 12-2 back in 2015 in their inaugural season, then went 10-4 last year. 9-5 this year, but a road win last week to advance in the playoffs. Pittsburgh hoping to end its season differently than years past. Each of the last 2 years, it ended here on this field against these Radicals. Nelson resets to Annan. Nice hustle from Repperman, who we've seen get blocked just like that many times. If you are a fan of patient offense, working the disc underneath, the Madison Radicals putting on a clinic for you as Johnson finds Brown for the score. Second goal of the quarter for Kevin Brown, and it's 4-3.
Madison really doing a great job of holstering those longer puts. Earlier this possession, Wiseman had the disc, looked like he had a very open shot downfield. Kevin Brown was cutting into the deep space, but he holstered because he knows that Pittsburgh wants Madison to throw the long game tonight. They want to force them to huck it because Pittsburgh feels very confident in their ability to go up head-to-head with Madison in the deep space.
Avery Johnson's been a real nice addition to the Radicals O-line. Kid who was born and raised here in Madison. He only applied to the University of Wisconsin. He always dreamed of being a Hodag. And oh, there's Kevin Pettit-Scantling getting into the throwing lane, denying the first shot to Thorne. Scullion wanted Juan Meyer, and that was an ill-advised shot into traffic.
Just a little too amped up from KPS's D. We saw exactly what I was talking about earlier. Pittsburgh loves it when Madison puts the disc longer. They really feel confident in their ability to simply get into space and take it away.
Here's Thomas Edmonds. Kind of like Avery Johnson for Madison. Edmonds has been a huge pickup for Pittsburgh. That is a fantastic throw. Oh, Max Thorne with a beauty. Fedorenko runs it down to tie things up. 3 minutes left in the first.
You have to have a lot of confidence both in your own ability to put the disc and in your receiver to put that throw. Willen was in excellent space to take that disc away. And there's that D from KPS.
Couple great chances that Madison hasn't cashed in on, and this throw is simply as good as it gets.
Yeah, it is a beauty of a put. Just wrapping itself around Madison, intended for Fedorenko's hands only.
Pittsburgh has certainly stabilized things. Fedorenko becomes that much more important without DiGirolamo as a downfield striker. Mark Fedorenko with his 36th goal of the season. A little bit of a junky look, Pittsburgh trying to adjust. Cannon wants Johnson. Avery Johnson elevating and then to space. Barker kept it alive. That might have been a travel. Johnson didn't set his pivot foot in the right spot, so that'll cost him 10 yards. They do retain possession. Pittsburgh really did hustle to get down to the end zone after Johnson made that catch. That's a nice nifty throw. Colin Camp the dime, Dave Wiseman the score.
The benefit of Annan's long put was nearly lost. But in the end, Madison got the opportunity to set up wisely in their end zone. And again, we saw some easy pass back and forth, just waiting for an appropriate toss to open up.
Interesting dynamic of this Madison offense. We're talking about it with the Pittsburgh coaching staff before the game. The handlers for Madison's O-line don't throw the goals. Mostly it's the cutters who make the catches and then throw the goals. You don't see that a lot in Ultimate.
I think it stems from the fact that Madison has a very deep roster, and everyone on the roster has very wide range of talent. So they have players who have been playing with one another for such a long time, who know each other incredibly well, that they can afford to have better throwers downfield, being those initiating cutters, so that they have a little bit easier time working it down the field. And that's another reason why their offense is a little more on the boring side, because they work it to about midfield before they look to stretch it.
Edmonds rips it. Earls wide open, and he's in. Pat Earls beat Pettit Scantling deep. And after falling behind 2-0 in the first 2.5 minutes, Thunderbirds trading punches.
This is what we saw the last time these two matched up, which was in June of this year. Both offenses were working really well. There were a few errors on both sides of the fence, but for the most part, the offenses were functioning really, really smoothly. So they traded points pretty much the entirety of the game.
Big game for Pat Earls and Max Thorne. These are two guys that certainly when they are hot, they can look as good as any duo in Ultimate. And the city of Pittsburgh is trying to do something, Megan, that frankly they've never done before, which is win a game like this. And if they're going to do it, guys like Earls and Thorne are going to be the key trigger men. Nice. Well done. Avery Johnson with another score for the Radicals. That one took just 17 seconds off the clock.
That was a great bid from Nelson to keep that offensive possession alive, that throw going just a little bit farther than Madison intended. But once Nelson got up, it was just that nice, smooth, easy offense again.
One of those strings that it looks like they designed it before the point, like there was no defense out there at all.
One interesting point about both Avery Johnson and Ross Barker is how seamlessly they have worked themselves into this Madison offense. Dave Wiseman made the point that the offensive line has been together pretty much since the inception of this Madison program. And so for them to be as instrumental to this offensive line this early in their career speaks volumes to both their talent and their flexibility as players.
Mast and Earls, the primary handlers. Tough throw, but Fedorenko was there. Graffy was poaching off a little bit. Final minute here in the opening quarter. Earls with the assist. For the second time, Earls to Fedorenko. 6-all with 45 seconds left in the quarter. Looks like Pittsburgh has picked up where they left off last week after 1 or 2 early mistakes.
Yeah, they came out definitely ready to play. And Fedorenko, who's a reliable player on any given day, is really having a red letter game so far. He's just able to separate himself from his defender and find the perfect timing to enter the end zone and catch the goal.
It's 3 goals already for Fedorenko out of the University of Dayton. A little bit of a different look here from the Radicals offense. They begin in kind of a split stack, and got Wiseman ready to go deep, Camp as well. Enough time to play basic offense. Morgenstern chasing Brown. Here's Camp. Looking for Kevin Brown. He's got it. Not much room to spare, but Kevin Brown makes the play. 15.7 seconds remaining in the quarter.
That disc sailed a little higher and a little longer than I think anybody expected it to. Brown did a great job of keeping his defender at his back, stuttering his steps a bit to make sure he was attacking the disc from straight underneath, and obviously having the wherewithal to make sure he was staying in bounds.
Very close. A little reminiscent of the catch that Jay Frood made for the Dallas Roughnecks playing back here at Madison on June the 3rd.
Good point. I think it was in the exact same spot.
Jay Frood and the Roughnecks, if you missed it, won in Raleigh earlier today in the South Division title game. The Roughnecks, the defending champs, headed back to championship weekend. One of these teams will join them tonight. Bad throw by Earls. 3 seconds for Madison, and the Radicals take the timeout. So clearly Earls didn't release that exactly how he wanted to. And Madison will have a huge chance here to throw up a bomb.
I'm not exactly sure what Funaki was doing, but he came at that from a crouching position. So it's entirely possible that he wasn't even within Pittsburgh line of sight, popped up to make that D.
There's the head coach and owner of the Madison Radicals, Tim DeBile, University of Wisconsin class of '96. He has built up this franchise to be a real beacon in this town. The energy outside Breese Stevens Field a couple hours before the game was impressive, and certainly as the game has begun, the Radicals got off to a good start. This is one of the biggest crowds they've ever had.
The doors opened at 5 p.m. tonight, and at 4:45 there was a line. That's how excited this town is for the Madison Radicals.
It's a sizable line too. Well, the first 600 fans got rad rags. They named them rad rags because they didn't want to call them rad towels, because the terrible towel is a phenomenon in Pittsburgh that the Radicals did not want to evoke. Will Annan be able to get into the end zone through the double team? He floats it high to Kevin Brown, and Kevin Brown will launch. This will make it to the end zone. Oh, and it's dropped by Wiseman at the buzzer. Wow. Pittsburgh dodges the bullet, and we will remember that moment, because for the berth to championship weekend on the line, every catch counts.
A great read from Dave Wiseman. Just a surprising catch on the way down, drop on the way down.
Pittsburgh will have the disc when we return. 7-6, the Radicals win the first quarter by just 1 here in the Midwest Championship game. including the one that led to Jim Gerenser getting doused in a bucket of Gatorade to culminate championship weekend last year. Megan, we are 15 days away from knowing the 2017 AUDL champ. It has been a long journey. We know that Dallas will be headed to Montreal. One of these teams will join them. Tomorrow, DC and Toronto will square off at Varsity Stadium in Ontario to decide the East Division champ. And well, 3 teams are still alive out west. LA and San Jose are going to play tonight. The winner gets San Francisco tomorrow. Certainly a fun time to be alive.
It has definitely been the most exciting season of the AUDL yet. So many queries, so many surprises. You know, this game today, Dallas at Raleigh, went, I think, the way most people expected. And yet, I think a lot of people would also not have been surprised if Raleigh had eked out a win.
Raleigh was the #1 seed in the power rankings, #1 seed in the AUDL playoffs after going 13-1 in the regular season. They fell behind by 4 at the end of the first quarter. They trailed by 4 at the half and fell behind by as many as 6. Cut it to 3 late in the fourth quarter, but never got it closer than that. Huge game for Jonathan Nethercutt, who led the Flyers in both goals and assists. I think he had 10 assists and 5 goals, but it was not enough. And the Roughnecks will defend their title in Montreal.
Roughnecks, another team like Madison, who I think are putting together the pieces at the appropriate time. I have a feeling that Raleigh faced a Dallas squad unlike the one they saw earlier this season.
That's absolutely true. Adding Kurt Gibson back into the fold. Jonathan Mast. Been a really critical handler for this Thunderbirds team this year. Jonathan Mast, a guy that Thunderbirds coach David Hogan coached in high school.
Jonathan Mast also got the taste for the AUDL back in 2011. He saw Brody Smith play.
The type of error that could prove incredibly costly.
Yeah, the errors we've seen so far are definitely ones that when watching the tape, individuals will recount what would have happened if that play had gone differently.
That was a byproduct of all the traffic and no one took charge. Now Graffy launching. Andrew Meshnick has 10 yards on the closest defender. Quick turn. Radicals start the second quarter with a break. Meshnick to Marty. Meshnick
proving why he is such an unstoppable force on this Madison squad. As he was reading that disc, he had to look over both left and right shoulders to find it, then immediately caught it, saw Marty making a perfect continuation cut straight into the end zone, had the wherewithal to keep his center of gravity, make that toss.
It's a punch in the gut. If you're a Thunderbirds fan, you have a throw into the end zone on one end, and then 3 throws later, you've given up a break. Chase Marty, a first-year Radical, standout at University of Wisconsin Whitewater. That's his 10th goal of the season for Madison. Thunderbirds down 8-6. Van Dusen wants Morgenstern. That was gorgeous. A couple guys who joined the team mid-season after completing their college season with the University of Pittsburgh. They certainly can play at this level, no doubt about that.
That's a play that will undoubtedly restore the confidence in Pittsburgh capacity to stay in this game. Starting off a quarter with a break can really lower a team's energy, but a beautiful score like that instantly revives it.
Both those guys were huge in the fourth quarter last week against Minnesota. Really that whole D-line, but Van Dusen, Morgenstern, Repperman, the keys to swinging that game when it looked like the wind chill had it locked up through the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, I spent some time talking with Anton Repperman after that game, and he said that the switch was relatively simple. They came out with a slightly different defense. Anton in particular was hanging back deep. They were doing switches right on the pull, and that small difference put them in position to just absolutely shut down Minnesota's offense.
And the wind died down late. The Pittsburgh defense made a little adjustment in the way they were guarding the deep space. Wow, stall called against the Radicals on the goal line. And Pittsburgh's not going to take any chances. David Hogan takes the timeout. 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. At what point, if any, do you think we'll start seeing some nerves from Madison? Because they are the heavy favorite in this game. They've beaten Pittsburgh on this field in this game each of the last 2 years.
Frankly, I think we won't until later in the game. I think Madison is great at keeping their wits about them when the game is close, but if they had had a larger lead and then Pittsburgh started to come back, that's when Madison really starts to lose their power on the field. I think when they get a large lead, they kind of go into autopilot mode, and then when the opposing team starts coming back, it takes them a while to wake up, to shake out of that autopilot mode. But here in this kind of situation, I think they do well until it seems like time is starting to run out.
Madison will play some goal line defense. I mean, you got to think about, teams practice these types of situations, down by 1 or tie game, 10 seconds on the clock, team out of a timeout on the goal line. I'm not sure there's one primary strategy defensively in this situation.
No, that's a great point. You kind of have to just read the situation on the field, make sure everyone is on the same page. That's the best standard option to come out of a timeout with.
Earls immediately gives up some yards to Thorne. This is Edmonds. Max Thorne. Earls. Over to Edmonds. I'm not sure we saw this type of patience from Pittsburgh last week, and then Earls drops the hammer. That's a break. After the timeout, Earls to Toll. 8-all.
No, Evan, we did not see this kind of patience from Pittsburgh in that Minnesota game, at least not this early in the game, but they are looking very sage on the field right now.
Pat Earls said he started playing Ultimate in 8th grade when he hurt his arm pitching and started spending more time at Max's house. Pat and Max obviously both had older brothers that were friends. One of the reasons they became friends, Pat and Max went to kindergarten together. Then Pat moved to a different part of town. They didn't go to the same school again until middle school. They've been close friends through high school and college. You can see that friendship on the field.
Keep working, buddy. Keep working, Avery.
Trywise uncorks. Oh, Morgenstern got there. That guy has worked so hard to make himself an elite defender, and he never gives up on the disc.
Johnson had a great read on it, great position. Morgenstern really closed the gap very quickly. Good acceleration to make that dig.
That's dangerous. Trywise thinking about a Callahan. Repperman runs it down. Pittsburgh was down 2-0. Tied it back up 2-2. We were tied at every number from 2 to 6. Tied again at 8-all, and now the Thunderbirds have the disc, looking for their first lead of the night. Van Dusen loves to huck. 2 targets going deep. Pittsburgh in front as Diamichis makes the grab. How about the excitement from the Thunderbirds soaring into the lead?
When Pittsburgh gets the disc on the break side, they are absolutely lethal, as we see here. Then Morgenstern very intelligently slows down so that he does not draw his defender into DeBeach's space.
You used to do that after your goals when you were playing for the Chicago team, right?
Sometimes right before.
Before the goal, front flip, and then after the goal.
The back flip.
Right. Pretty good put from Van Dusen, wouldn't you say?
Beautiful put from Van Dusen. You know, the very first point of offense, I thought Pittsburgh looked a little bit rattled because Madison had taken away the break space. But they're still clearly quite comfortable of utilizing it the minute they get it.
So a 3-0 run right now for Pittsburgh. You can see the tide changing a little bit. This is Graffy. Help fire long. Meshnik adjusting. Meshnik's got it. Just shy of the goal line. And that'll work. Chris Weiland in the end zone. You know who Graffy's looking for if he's winding up?
Those two have fantastic on-field chemistry. You can always count on TriWise to do the work necessary to reel those in. This is really a very simple observation, but you know, Madison has been great at making continuation cuts for those hucks that are just outside of the end zone. We saw it earlier from Marty, who received the goal from TriWise, and here Weiland is continuing the play. And I know that seems like a very simple thing to point out, a very simple thing to complete, but you notice both of those times, Marty was going in, Weiland was going in. There was no Pittsburgh defender around.
Can Pittsburgh maintain its lead with a hold? Certainly a shot right there that Earls might have taken in the first half last week. He holstered it here. Well, pretty good defense from Madison. Pittsburgh uses its second and final timeout of the half. It's a victory for the Radicals because the Thunderbirds are out of timeouts. Obviously, they do get a fresh stall count on the restart, but you can see some body language signaling frustration on the Pittsburgh sideline. Ethan Beardsley was unable to make the trip to Minnesota last week. It was his first game missed ever as a Thunderbird. Trying to start a new consecutive games played streak today. Beardsley is a guy who, well, he hasn't scored yet today. Over the past couple seasons has been one of the best goal scorers in the league. 72 goals in 2015, 47 a year ago. Another great crowd at Breese Stevens Field for an important game in the AUDL. Evan Lepler, Megan Tormey, our entire crew with you from downtown Madison, Wisconsin, where you cannot beat the weather in the summertime. Madison forcing Pittsburgh backwards. To Fedorenko. Here's Thorne. Edmonds warming up in a Toronto Blue Jays hat. He's from Toronto originally. He'd love to go play championship weekend in Montreal. Thorne swings it. Earls in the end zone. Madison made him work for it. Work for it they did.
That was besides the very first point of offense that Pittsburgh played. I think that was the most arduous point of offense that we've seen from them. They certainly didn't look flustered, but they did have to look twice, think twice before they moved the disc down the field.
How many times do you think Thorne has hit Earls for a goal in their lives?
That's a good question. That would be an interesting one to find out.
Earls and Thorne were seniors in high school at North Hills, won the city title, beating a team that had Jimmy Toll and Max Shepard. David Hogan was coaching Fox Chapel High with Toll and Shepard. A year later, Max and Pat were at Pittsburgh. Shepard and Toll led Fox Chapel to the title. A 17-second strike. Colin Camp, the target.
You could not have asked for a more beautiful put from Wiseman. Such an easy read for Camp, who was all alone, but did not have to work very hard at all to reel that disc in.
"20 points down, dead even. Pittsburgh has beaten Madison one time. That was on June 6th, 2015 in Pittsburgh. Radicals have dominated the series ever since. But this Madison team has only lost 8 times in 5 seasons in the regular season. And one of them was to Pittsburgh. What have you liked the most from this Thunderbirds offense so far here in the first half?
Their flexibility in working with whatever Madison is giving them. They have adjusted so quickly, so well, to recognizing when they're being forced under and have to work the small game, when their IO is being taken away and when they can use it. They are being so patient and so wise with the disc right now. It's really enjoyable to watch.
And not too many bad decisions. The ultimate IQ has looked good so far. And they've made the cuts to find open spaces on the field. The resets have always been there. You can just tell Edmonds has been such a huge addition to this team. As a reset handler, throwing across the defense, Graffy lurking. Bad idea by Pittsburgh.
I think Pittsburgh thought that might sail up over Graffy's head, but not exactly the defender you want to test.
Graffy led the league 2 of the last 3 years in D's. In the top 5 again this season, that was number 28. And a timeout called by Tim DeVille. That's the final timeout of the half for the Radicals in a 10-10 game with 4:23 on the second quarter clock. Thou shalt not test Peter Graffy.
Wow, he just elevated and swatted that disc down. Obviously, it's always best if you can catch your Ds, but he was getting just the tip of that disc, but it was enough. I feel like this has to be such a fun challenge for both coaches. Tim DeVille of Madison, David Hogan of Pittsburgh. Both seem to really like to think through these problems. I mean, Tim DeBile was one of the coaches who really wowed us at the beginning of the Madison program by being the best at utilizing the new rule in the AUDL, which allowed for the double team.
He embraced innovation.
And continues to think through problems differently in a nuanced way. And so as much as I have loved watching Madison's offense, I've also enjoyed watching the nuanced changes that Tim is making to the defense time after time to try and fluster Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is remaining quite calm.
Andrew Brown has his brother Kevin closest to him, and that's where he goes. Try-wise, Camp, Annan, and Nelson, along with Barker on the field. Nelson rips one. Colin Camp is there. That's a break for the Radicals, as Colin Camp has scored their last two. 11-10 Madison.
Colin Camp makes it easy by priming his position, but Nelson makes it even easier with a foot like that. It's an interesting setup coming out of the timeout. It really looked like Madison had somewhat of an L stack, but across the front of the field, as opposed to going down into it. So they worked it wide, making sure they saved plenty of space underneath in the open side so that they could generate a little momentum, ultimately opening up that space for Camp to cut into and Nelson to throw into without any potential for a errant defensive player to take it away.
You are looking live at drone footage of Breese Stevens Field, one of the most gorgeous venues in the league. Lively crowd on hand. And the Radicals are getting tested, which makes everybody a little nervous, also adds some intensity. Both teams out of timeouts. Pittsburgh turns it over. Kevin Pettit-Scantling, the only member of this Madison team that's played every game this year. Graffy floats it. That was unwise. Thomas Edmonds deflecting it in the end zone for Pittsburgh.
Very unwise. There was already a conglomerate of players close to the area he was throwing into, so it's not surprised we saw a huddled mass of individuals eager to grab that disc.
Earls. Not enough float. Intended for Toll with Graffy defending. Kevin Pettit-Scantling just floats it up there. Three different Radicals topple over, and the disc in none of their grasps. This is the loosest point we've seen in this first half, which has been really well played for the most part by both sides.
Yeah, that foot was a bit surprising from KPS. I honestly thought even as soon as the disc went up, the person who was most primed to catch it was Fedorenko.
It feels like every turnover so far in this game, from the moment it has left the thrower's hands, you could project for us that's a turnover.
Right. Yeah, they have been unquestionable mistakes.
When the right decision has been made, both teams have been super smooth. Edmonds all alone up the line, and there's Fedorenko. A circuitous hold for Pittsburgh. 11-all with 2:12 to go in the half.
It's a amazing no one was hurt on that pileup, and here we see Pittsburgh simply march the disc down the field. The point you made earlier, that possession, when the team is making the appropriate choices, the score is effortless.
Sam Van Dusen with the pull. Immediate double team on Brown, and then the second defender, Fridella, peels off. Not quickly enough, though, to get a mark on Nelson. All the way to the end zone. Kevin Brown rising up for the score.
Van Dusen closing in. Brown again reads it very well, attacking the disc before Pittsburgh had a chance to make a play. And what another amazing put from Nelson. That seems to be his power position on the field. Two beautiful puts for a score for Madison from Nelson.
If you're Pittsburgh, do you think twice about putting that double team on Andrew Brown? Because they basically left Nelson all alone for that power position hook.
At this point, yes. I think those are the types of minor adjustments that both teams will have to continue to make in order to separate from the other team. We've seen just some incredible back and forth from the two of them. So with Nelson demonstrating that he is perfectly comfortable putting the disc, if his defender is off bothering with a double team, and if Madison is showing that they are going to continuously offer that continuation cut downfield, then yes, they need to change. They need to make a change.
Seconds left in the first half. Madison has led a couple times by 2. Pittsburgh has led by 1. And now we're tied yet again, 12 all.
Mascalunas with some very bothersome D that point, but simply not enough.
Jimmy Toll left open in the end zone. Pittsburgh finding the right target. Another relatively quick score. 39 seconds coming off the clock. If you're Pittsburgh, you gotta be feeling pretty good about where you are, considering the start and considering the history.
Absolutely. Pittsburgh is playing incredibly well today, and I think part of the reason is because they started out so poorly in their game against Minnesota. They learned some very valuable lessons that are fresh on their minds. First of all, how important it is to arrive early to warm up as a team. Second of all, make adjustments very quickly, not wait until halftime.
Under a minute now remaining in the first half. Radicals have not lost too many halves on this field. They've only lost twice on this field in the regular season, 3 times if you count the playoffs. 39 seconds left for the Thunderbirds as Wiseman collects another score.
Shocking in that point of offense, but I do feel like Madison has amped up the intensity of their offense. They seem to be firing and moving just a little bit faster. Smart little head fake from Dave Wiseman there to open himself up for Ross Barker. Made it look like he was cutting to the inside just with a jerk of his head, and then quickly shifted left into the open space.
Wily play by Wiseman. Dave began his college career for the University of Wisconsin C team before he finally made the A team. And I think that type of story, as well as a lot of stories in Ultimate, indicate that the guys you're watching now were not always stars. These guys have made themselves into players. Nice throw to Fedorenko to move into Madison's territory. Another nice hammer from Earls. Crowd trying to incite an early throw, and Edmonds fell for it. And Madison has 8 seconds to try to go the other way. Meanwhile, Fedorenko is shaken up. Tough sequence for the Thunderbirds. Edmonds had about 15 seconds when he heard the crowd's countdown, and that right there is the manifestation of home field advantage. Meanwhile, Fedorenko, such a critical player for Pittsburgh. He is still down. Obviously, the number one concern is Fedorenko. Secondarily, this is a free timeout for Madison. Good sign to see him walking off under his own power. Again, Edmonds just throws a blade. It's kind of an awkward landing for Fedorenko.
Looks like his arms were forward attempting to catch the disc. I have to think he just knocked the wind out of him, which, having done that myself on the field, is incredibly jarring and frightening because you've been exerting yourself physically and then are incapable of drawing in a breath.
Meshnik and Weiland are the deep targets. Oh! Soaring in out of nowhere was Sterling Kanaki. A superhero grab from Kanaki at the first half buzzer.
Raffi cranked that disc as hard as he could, and it looked like we were just about to see a deflection.
Kanaki takes out Weiland in the process.
Wow. Coming from almost out of nowhere to make that play.
Wow.
Talking with Wiseman before the game, he said Kanaki is good for at least one of those. How did he even plays? And it looks like we have seen that right now.
Former competitive swimmer came from out of nowhere into the picture at the last moment, soaring into the pack for the score. And we have gone to the half at Breese Stevens Field. The home field advantage, as much as anything, the reason for the 2-goal lead. It's 14-12 at the half, the Midwest title game. Madison leads Pittsburgh by 2.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Halfway to a Midwest champion, the Radicals trying to win this division yet again. The Thunderbirds with quite a fight in that first half, and what an ending for the Radicals to close out the half. Sterling Kanaki from Peter Graffi. Initially, it didn't look like Kanaki was in the picture, and then here he comes to save the day.
Surprising Weiland, no doubt, along with everyone else on the sideline for the closing speed that allowed him to come in and make that play.
Great crowd at Breese Stevens Field tonight. We welcome you back into our broadcast booth with Megan Tormey. I am Evan Leffler. I bet Chris Weiland after the game will say that he would have caught that if Kanaki didn't come flying in there.
I'm sure.
Just a wild change of momentum at the end of the first half. And the question I have for you is that something that will naturally carry over to the third quarter?
So initially I would have said yes, but having watched these two teams earlier in the season, I have to say not necessarily so. Pittsburgh seems so determined to come in and fight hard against Madison that I don't think they're going to roll over and let Madison continue to push with the momentum. They're going to come out with a fast score or some rip-roaring defense to just stop Madison in their tracks and say, hey, this game is far from over.
Plenty of twists and turns in that first half. And David Hogan told us after their heart-stopping win last week against Minnesota, he said, we know Madison and they know us. Our defenses know how to play against each other. That will lead to breaks. And while we've seen plenty of holes, we've seen the defenses make plays too.
They certainly have made plays, but it's been the offense's adjustments that have made the defense had to work even harder to put on the pressure to stop the momentum.
Wow, well, Madison trying to get back to championship weekend again. This Pittsburgh team trying to splash the party and be a first-time Final Four participant. Let's show you the championship bracket as it stands right now. Dallas, a 27-24 win over Raleigh after the Roughnecks beat Jacksonville by 10 2 weeks ago. So Dallas will defend its title in Montreal, a semifinal on August the 26th, 2 weeks from today. Top right of your screen, Pittsburgh and Madison. That is what you are watching now after Pittsburgh's one-score win last week. Last night in DC, they waded through about a 3 or 4 hour lightning delay before the DC Breeze pulled away from the Montreal Royale. It was a late night in the capital, but DC now on their way to Toronto to face the Rush tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock Eastern. And also San Francisco awaiting the winner of LA and San Jose. We'll know who the Flamethrowers' opponent is later tonight. As you look at this bracket right now, we've made some progress into going to our ultimate destination. What do you think?
Well, in the East, I've thought a lot about this particular game, the Rush versus the DC Breeze. And I feel like the story this season in the AUDL has been about teams that are peaking at the appropriate time. And I feel like DC came out very strong at the beginning of the season and just haven't quite been able to hold on to their momentum. So I like Toronto for their game against the Breeze. In terms of the West Coast, I really like San Francisco this year. I like the depth of the roster. I like how well they work together. And again, I think they haven't been as strong the entire season as they needed to be, but because they're amping it up here towards the end of the season, I like what I'm seeing, and I think this year is their year.
We saw so many great games last year in the AUDL playoffs, and the best game in terms of how close it was last weekend in Minnesota. Pittsburgh coming back from a 5-goal deficit in the fourth quarter to win by 1. They're a top 10 highlight reel just from that game, and we want to take you back to some of the memories from Pittsburgh's win over Minnesota, the top 10 plays from the Thunderbirds' postseason victory 8 days ago.
Hi, I'm Joel Larakis, and I'm the operations manager of Boone Technical Clothing here in the United States. I lost my mom last 2014 to breast cancer. She was 54 years old. It was pretty tough for me because I wasn't able to help her or have the kind of knowledge to be able to do something about the situation. I learned about Eric, about Jim's vision, about his organization, and I want to be part of it. Not only as an ultimate player, but also a son to my mom. I think one thing that early recognition is critical helped me was to be able to reach out to other people who are still having the chance or privilege to do something about the cancer within their family or like friends. I think that's what Eric is all about. It's just not within the sport. It goes on and off the field. If you volunteer, even though it's only you can be able to inspire and aspire other people to help the movement. And you never know. People are just waiting to be reached out to, and they're only waiting for you.
In the low 70s at Breese Stevens Field, a great crowd on hand. The Radicals leading by 2 at the half. They won the first quarter 7-6, and then they won the second quarter 7-6. And as Tim DeBile fires up the troops, we'll take a look at some of the first half highlights. Plenty of great plays for both teams throughout that first half. Tim DeBile trying to get back to championship weekend and knows that it is not going to be easy because after a slow start, Pittsburgh found its groove.
And their groove came in the form of long puts that typically Madison had a difficult time deflecting. That D by Graffi being one of the rare occasions where they could take the long puts away, but besides that, Madison having a hard time stopping connections like that one.
You could argue Sam Van Dusen has been Pittsburgh's MVP so far, especially for their D-line.
I think that would be a fair argument for sure, simply because there haven't been a lot of turnovers in this game. So the defense's offense is absolutely crucial to putting this game away.
Nice D on and under. KPS getting the best of Thorne. Madison, though, at the end of the half, they were down 10-9 and then scored 2 straight, both goals from Colin Camp. And then at the very end of the half, Graffi just a prayer after Pittsburgh could not punch it in. And, well, yeah, Weiland might have gotten away with a foul there with the shoulder. But it's Kanaki soaring in to cap the first half with an exclamation point.
Kanaki got his start in Ultimate when he was convinced by his neighbor to give it a try. His neighbor also on this Madison squad, Avery Johnson.
They grew up together in Madison. Avery Johnson mentioned how he always wanted to play for the Hodags. He said he probably was a little too confident because his first day he went to tryouts wearing baby blue Hodag colored cleats. And on the first day, got yelled at by Brian Hart, who was the captain, and he broke his hand at warm-ups during a tryout tournament. So tryout tournament warm-ups, he got hurt. A little amped up. He did make the team, and he was very excited to compete and represent the University of Washington. Imagine it's pretty special to put on the Radicals, University of Wisconsin, obviously. Special to put on the Radicals jersey, too.
Yeah, DeBile has talked about how important that HODAG system has been in supplying ample talent for Madison.
Nice break from Schreiwise. And it's Tom Annan shaking free in the end zone. Barker the assist and in the goal. Largest lead of the night for the home team here in Madison.
And that lead came about from two really beautiful inside-out breaks. Well away from the defender, simply put, they didn't have to work too hard for that one. And we've seen that they're willing to put in the effort to just continue to throw back and forth and back and forth. But it's great when they can extend their lead in such a short period of time with well-executed, tricky throws like those.
Of course, Barker's been a huge addition to this team as well. He had that incredible greatest at college nationals this past Memorial Day weekend, but Barker went to Wisconsin to play football. He was a preferred walk-on. He's a wide receiver for the football team, but he had to quit after just 3 weeks because medical testing revealed an irregularity in his heart. Obviously able to play some sports, playing Ultimate. He found a home with the HODAGs. Of course, Pittsburgh's got a pretty good college program too, winning national titles in 2012 and 2013. The first Pittsburgh title, Max Thorne caught the game-winning championship clinching score on a pass from his brother. Maybe the proudest moment in the life of their father, Henry Thorne. Your two boys catch and throw the game-winning score to win a national title, you'd be proud too.
You know you did something right as an Ultimate parent. I've always thought it would be great to play with a sibling. Watch the Browns and been rather jealous. I tried to get my sister involved with Ultimate, but didn't really have an athletic bone in her body.
Oh, Graffy sneaks in, but it was a foul. And Graffy the first to admit it. Incredible athletic maneuver to get around the Thunderbirds player Beardsley without contact. They'll double team on the goal line. Earls, laser, hammer dropped. Uh-oh. Butterfingers from Toll. A chance for the Radicals to extend their lead.
We've seen just a few more errors from Pittsburgh.
Graffy bidding, and he may have hurt himself.
Leading into the halftime and coming out of it.
Kevin Brown jogging onto the field. You'll see what happened here. Bruce knifing this forward, forcing the bid. It's kind of a late reaction. Hard to tell if it was his wrist on the landing or something else that he kind of realized as he was pushing himself up. See Fedorenko go down at the end of the first half. Graffy to start the second half. Looking at his side, hopefully he's all right. By the way, Fedorenko is back on the field for Pittsburgh, which is good news. Kevin Brown with the disc. Bruce, Meshnick, Pettit, Scantling, Marty, Hart, and Kanaki. Are you kidding me? Sterling Kanaki again. And he'll gain an extra 10 yards. The contact after the catch. How many plays did Wiseman say Kanaki would make?
He said he was good for one a game. Looks like tonight is our lucky night.
Kanaki probably heard that. It was like, I'll show you. How about Sterling Kanaki, folks? Changing the game with his athleticism deep.
grabs from Kanaki I've watched in slow motion, and I'm still not entirely sure how he made the play.
Beardsley had his hands on the disc, and then Earls the hammer. If you're gonna beat Madison, in Madison, that's the play you gotta make. Especially when Kanaki is lingering in the airspace. You know he wanted this one back. And Bruce picks up the assist. That's 2 straight for the Radicals to start the second half.
So if there's anything we've learned from Pittsburgh in these last 2 weeks is that this lead is not insurmountable. And this is when it becomes clutch for Madison not to go on autopilot, to maintain the intensity both defensively and the wherewithal offensively in order to keep this gap, because Pittsburgh is going to make adjustments.
Madison throwing the zone for the first time tonight. Weiland and Meshnik chasing around the disc. Graffy lingering deep. Graffy's coming. He's got it. And Morgenstern slow to get up. He'll fight through it. All of a sudden, it's like Pittsburgh's playing right into Madison's hands. Graffy with a left hand. Right hands it to the end zone. Seth Meyer has the score. It's a 5-0 run, spanning halves for the Radicals.
Contrast the ease with which Madison moved the disc this offensive possession. Every put was perfectly placed. Every cut was well timed. Pittsburgh couldn't make a play. The offensive possession immediately before this, Pittsburgh looked absolutely flustered with options downfield. That zone really threw them for a curve. They didn't seem to know where they could put it without Madison taking it away. And Morgenstern going for that going for that disc. Both Graffy and Kanaki were there. Clearly, Madison was coming down for that disc.
If you try to beat the Madison zone with the over-the-top throws, I mean, we saw Tyler DiGirolamo have some success with his hammers, but doesn't seem like a great idea. Pole sailed out of bounds, so Earls will center. Edmonds found Thorne, who's immediately doubled by Pettit Scantling. You just watch a possession like this and think, if Pittsburgh had Tyler DiGirolamo cutting downfield, it would transform their offense. The Thunderbirds are struggling, gaining big chunks of yards on vertical cuts. DiGirolamo played minimally last week, tried to warm up. He had tweaked his hamstring the week before. Not able to go tonight. Thorne to Fedorenko with the emphatic spike. But it felt like a victory for the Radicals with how hard Pittsburgh had to work, didn't it?
I was going to say the exact same thing. When you force a defense to take that many looks, to throw that many throws, at some point you are either going to get a block or eat up so much time in the game that the opposing team isn't going to have an opportunity to make up the ground that's lost.
Well, not exactly the same way that we've gotten there. But at the moment, midway through the third quarter, we're basically where Pittsburgh was last week against Minnesota. 4-goal deficit, vacillated between 4 and 5 throughout that third quarter, in which both the wind chill and the Thunderbirds held 7 times each. Kevin Brown gets there! Tom Annan floats it to space, and Kevin Brown does the rest.
As if Kevin Brown could do anything else to make his play more exciting tonight, a diving somersault catch into the end zone was certainly it.
Just 10 seconds come off the clock. Not 100% certain that he had lifted that back foot off the ground before he leapt for the catch. The Radicals catch a break. Another goal for Kevin Brown. That's such a valuable shot for the Madison offense because it keeps Pittsburgh defense honest.
You're exactly right. Going into this game, we knew that Pittsburgh wanted to force Madison long because they felt like their chances were greater at beating them at the long game. But Madison has been very judicious with their longer shots, and ultimately they've looked really good and had an easy time scoring long without too much Pittsburgh pressure. And as we saw in the Minnesota game, they can be absolutely destructive D'ing a team on the long game.
Very rare you see Madison play zone without Andrew Meshnick on the field. Weiland and Mascalunas, the 2 marks, and the Radicals staying in this 2-4-1 zone near the goal line. With a lead, it bleeds time from the clock. Jonathan Mast throws it into the defense. Intercepted by Bruce. Earls can't get the D. Tim DeBile calls timeout from the Madison sideline. Radicals can sense the blood in the water. The Sharks of the Midwest Division closing in on perhaps a 5th straight trip to the Final Four.
And here's just another example of how Tim DeBile's coaching prowess really sets Madison apart. When you have several zone looks that are highly effective, it can make it impossible to practice against. I think Pittsburgh came in expecting the double team from Madison, and that's not primarily what they're seeing tonight. When you're facing a new zone during game time, it takes away the obvious choice. And anytime you do that, you run the risk of doing exactly what we saw Pittsburgh do. Throw straight into a Madison defender, because you can't keep track of where the defense is if it's brand new, or at least you can, but it's much more difficult to accomplish. Clearly they did a great job. They worked the disc all the way almost into the end zone, and just as the disc was going in for a score, that's when Madison struck.
It's a nice night to paint your chest.
Yeah, there are certainly bad nights to do it in Madison. This is not one of them.
Badgers season just around the corner. Basically, when the Radicals are in the playoffs, that's when you know to get your tailgate gear out of the basement, because it's almost football season 2. Barker to Schreiwise. Oh, how about that nifty
nice
shot from Schreiwise. Too good. Andrew Brown with the score, just his 4th of the year. And this crowd is lit.
It's hard not to be excited with plays like that. The beginning of this game, we saw Madison being very conservative with their throws. Now that their lead is extending, now that they have Pittsburgh on their heels, they're opening up and making some really pretty plays like that amazing inside-out forehand put to Ross Barker from Pat Schreiwise.
Now, Schreiwise, I don't believe, has an assist or a goal tonight, but his presence out there is a calming force. And throws like that, I mean, that was as gorgeous of a in-possession throw as you'll ever see.
You're right, there's no glory for the hockey assist in Ultimate, but this is another thing that Madison is highlighting tonight, how much they work well as a team, how much their wins are team wins, not the result of one person making amazing plays.
Edmonds to Beardsley as Pittsburgh punches in their 2nd score of the half.
That's the smoothest their offense has looked in quite a few points.
And it felt like they didn't let Madison get to stall 3. Only took him 31 seconds to maneuver down the field.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has the capacity to do that regularly. Simply catch the disc, look down the field. They have someone coming in immediately. Towards the end of the second half, leading into the second half, we've seen Madison be far more disruptive than they were earlier in the game. That particular point, not so much. That's the offense we were used to seeing from Pittsburgh, both early in this game and in the last time these two faced one another.
Pat Schreiwise is barely attacking the deep space as a cutter. As a thrower, he launches for Camp, and it's Carl Morgenstern again. Not his first D of the night.
Bit of a risky put from Schreiwise. That's exactly the throw that Pittsburgh has been trying to bait all evening.
Timeout called by Pittsburgh. Only one left after this one. David Hogan sensing that this is an important moment. Graduate of Pittsburgh, class of 2010. It's a D by Morgenstern. David Hogan telling us before the game that he does not expect to be living in Pittsburgh at this time next year. So at the moment, nothing is certain, but at the moment, he thinks it's very possible this could be his last game or his last season as the coach of the Thunderbirds. Obviously, if they don't come back to win, it could be his last game. He's been the coach since the team's inception, now in year 3. "29 years old, really a student of the game. So Pittsburgh's offense retaking the field. And you see the corresponding Madison group of defenders. Looks like Madison's going zone here. Disc in near the corner. Maskalunas and Meshnik on the double team mark. Gotta be a great teammate to be willing to be one of the marks in this zone, because it's basically just run until you can't breathe. we've seen teams struggle, Megan. Once they get it through the cup initially, they don't really know what to do. They don't really know what to do. There's a contact foul. Because when you get past the initial wave of defenders, it's not like you turn downfield and see a particular alignment defensively.
And that's an excellent point. Madison does a good job of setting up more of a wall past the double team. So it's really hard to see exactly where the open lane is, simply because each player past the two-person mark can essentially take 2 lanes away.
The zone, if nothing else, forcing Pittsburgh to bleed some more time off the clock. And Earls sneaks it through to Fedorenko. So that's a break. A 2-0 run from the Thunderbirds. Certainly plenty of time left in this game. That's a good start.
Earls has done such a nice job this game trying to keep the offensive momentum regardless of what the defensive look is. He is working so hard from the handler position to get the disc, move it immediately, and then he himself follows the disc to see if the new person with the disc gets stuck, if he can't be a reset and keep that disc moving.
6th goal for Fedorenko, 4th assist for Earls. Madison back on O. Camp. Big windup. Kevin Brown chased by Anson Repperman. Here we go, and it's Kevin Brown. He's having himself a night.
He sure is. Tonight, Kevin Brown cannot be beat. With the likes of Anson Repperman on his back, I thought perhaps this is where his streak ends. Anson went up early. It looked like he was playing the disc well enough. But at the last possible moment, Brown jumps up, sneaks in, and pulls in one more for Madison.
Last 2 goals from the Madison O-line have been scored in 10 seconds and 14 seconds. Both of them pucks to Brown, the younger. The sun nearly fully beyond the horizon. Lights on here at Breese Stevens Field. Madison looking for more. Kanaki. Bruce. This is Graffy.
Wow.
Bruce and Graffy work it in.
You saw the moment Graffy recognized that he could toss to Bruce and strike cut for the goal. Bruce's defender had bit hard, thinking that Graffy was going for the around, and he was. Then he saw Bruce cutting back towards the open side, just a quick dishy strike cut to the end zone. Pittsburgh left reeling.
A tidal wave of Madison momentum. By the way, I'm bummed we haven't been able to go check out the nacho business stand. Because...
You a fan of nachos?
I mean, and great names. Violation, perhaps unsportsmanlike on Graffy for the throw into the stands. don't view that as anything over the top, but nonetheless, Madison forced a pull from the back of its end zone. Leading by 6. And just breaking back after Pittsburgh had gotten the break. Final minute of the third. Seth Meyer, the run through D. Bruce to Meshnick, wide open. – 12 seconds for Meshnick. Scullion. Weiland. End zone, Graffey. Madison continues to own the final seconds of the quarters.
This is absurd. I'm not entirely sure that Meyer didn't bait that throw. Looked like he was moving but hanging back just a little bit to sprint in for the D.
We've seen that from him before.
Ultimately, another great point of offense from Madison, just in the nick of time, too.
This place has come alive. The lead has swelled to 7. It's not just the amount of people, Megan, it's the passion, it's the enthusiasm, it's the Radicals gear that you see in the stands, it's the body paint, it's everything. Van Dusen launches a prayer. It's tipped by Pettit-Scantling and he landed hard. But he pops up with one more D to his ledger. Radicals won the first quarter by 1. They won the second quarter by 1. They win the third quarter by 5.
Fantastic D from Kevin Pettit-Scantling to finish out the quarter. Now, KPS is having an amazing season, and he certainly was a standout player before, but after 2015, when they lost to San Jose in San Jose, the championship weekend, KPS underwent very significant hip reconstructive surgery, spent 6 weeks in a half-body brace, and then endured a 6 to 8 month comeback. He was cleared to run 2 weeks prior to the 1 month prior to the start of Madison's season in 2016, he was cleared to run, and then 2 weeks prior to the first game, he was actually cleared to play sports. So he hadn't had the time to train the way he wanted to prior to the 2016 season, but nothing was holding him back this year. And so he committed to making every practice, every game. He made a lot of gains during the offseason, and that's why we've seen him just absolutely come alive this 2017 season.
He might be out there on defense. Pittsburgh begins the fourth quarter on 0, but after 3, it's a 7-goal deficit for Pittsburgh. Madison in control at Breese Stevens Field. Indeed, Kevin Pettit-Scantling retaking the field to begin the fourth on his home turf. Radicals won that third quarter 8-3. closed it out on a 3-0 run. Graffi, Meshnik, KPS, and Kanaki, all critical factors to this Radicals rally. Let's see what Pittsburgh has left in the tank. These next few minutes are going to be crucial. Either they throw a couple punches, show that they're in it, or then, if not, this game could get ugly and it could be a 12-point difference at the end.
Yeah, with the stoppage we've seen from Madison's defense means that they simply wouldn't have enough time to cover up the ground lost if they don't quickly put it in now.
Max Thorne in the red zone. Edmonds to Earls, marked by Graffi. Earls takes a shot, looking for Toll. Oh, what a catch. Jimmy Toll with Meshnik on the mark. Makes the play.
A really great read and also a great play. Notice that he kept Meshnik, who's a fantastic defensive player, on his left shoulder and reached up with his right hand to give him the advantage of catching it farther away from Meshnik.
Great point. Jimmy Toll was not on the initial roster at the start of the season for the Thunderbirds. But when Kyle Hartley got hurt and David Hogan saw how well he played for the University of Pittsburgh, Hogan said he had to sign him. A guy that David Hogan coached back in the first ever U16 YCCs, Youth Club Championships. Colin Camp in pursuit. So close. It's not like Pittsburgh can take a timeout 7 times and get the O-line back out there. This D-line's going to have to work it 80 yards. Xavier Maxted. Van Dusen throws it away. Pick called downfield. You can hear the Madison sideline yelling at Tom Annan that the count is high. Stall count is not reset because of the pick call, so Annan, right when the whistle blows, gets rid of it to Wiseman. Dave Wiseman was a coach at the Youth Club Championships last week. His Madison mixed U20 team went all the way to the semifinals, which he was quite proud of.
There you go, Colin. Nice and easy, Radicals. Nice and easy. Keep going, Dave.
Annan needs someone, just floats it up there. Kevin Brown lurking, he's got the height. Carl Morgenstern shows the ups. What a game he's having.
He is. Sure. Earlier I thought for sure he was about to get a D on the disc intended for Colin Camp. Still determined to stack his stats. Made sure to get the D later.
Maxted launches. Schreiwise back defensively. And he had it taken away. Van Dusen to Thomas. Schreiwise caught a little flat-footed on the back pedal, and Van Dusen raises the roof.
Yeah, ultimately, I thought this was definitely going in Schreiwise's favor, but Van Dusen reaches over Schreiwise to catch that disc. Then we see Schreiwise not sure that the play is continuing. Pittsburgh very quick to capitalize, continue movement.
It's really close.
Yeah, resulted in an immediate Pittsburgh score.
You know, on first glance, it looked like Schreiwise got his hand to the disc first, but did he have possession before Van Dusen ripped it away?
I think Schreiwise thought either he did have possession or he had been fouled, which is why he stayed on the ground for as long as he did.
Well, there's two. The deficit was 7. Thunderbirds have scored 2 straight. Bad news for Pittsburgh is it's taken them 3 minutes and 11 seconds to do it. Graffy clearly bumped by Jack Heffron. Heffron making his return to the team after tearing an ankle ligament in practice about a month ago. Graffy looking end zone. Casually done by Barker.
Graffy displaying an awful lot of trust in Barker. Didn't have a ton of separation from his man. Graffy's long puts have really helped Madison extend their lead this game.
Megan, throughout this season, a lot of AUDL fans have wondered, how would the Radicals replace guys like Jay Frood and Abe Coffin? And the answer, as you've seen tonight, has been Sterling Kanaki and Ross Barker.
They have proved that their youth is a benefit.
Not to mention Avery Johnson and Jeff Mascalunas. Chase Marty has been an addition to the D-line. Madison team has 8 new bodies among the active 20 today, compared to who the active 20 was in the playoffs against Pittsburgh a year ago. So it is a slightly different team, perhaps more than slightly. Earls squeezes it through. Jarring collision. Fedorenko keeps his feet, centers the disc. Mast to Beardsley. 7:06 remaining in a 5-score game.
Mast did a fantastic job of recognizing that one option was closing, but another one was opening wide open as Madison sucked in on the open option underneath. Earls very clearly covered by 2 individuals, opened up that back corner. Mast made a great outside input to the back of it for the score. And a point I started to make earlier about Mast, but was interrupted by great play, was that Mast initially gained interest in the AUDL by attending one of the games. So we're starting to reach that point in the era of AUDL where players have seen a game and been inspired to play. In 2011, he watched Brody Smith make amazing plays while playing for the Indianapolis Alley Cats and decided he himself wanted to play in the AUDL.
Very similarly, Madison's Jeff Mascalunas grew up in the Chicago area, went to the 2013 AUDL title game between Toronto and Madison. Little did he know he'd make a game-saving deep for the Radicals just a few years later. Kevin Brown again in the end zone for Madison. Fans waving their rags as the Madison team increases the lead again on the back of KB.
It's no wonder why Kevin Brown is smiling tonight. He is absolutely on fire. It's nice when you've been out because of an injury to come back so decisively, to come back and make a statement like Kevin Brown is making tonight.
7 goals so far for number 92. Beardsley tried to get it back to Earls. Took his eye off it before securing possession.
Go, sir, go, sir, go!
Hart, push pass back to Bruce. Earls still bouncing on the mark. Blading flick to Meshnik. Kanaki. And Kanaki perhaps experiencing a cramp. He's been working hard tonight. I'm good, he said.
Somebody get that guy an electrolyte tablet. He's been playing too well to stay out of the game. Fantastic offense from Madison, using the entire width of the field, giving the downfield cutters plenty of movement to go where they need to go.
To have a striker like Kanaki, he's playing D-line and he's got his 3rd goal of the game. Nothing a little stretching won't cure. Well, this Madison team, Megan, 12-2 during the regular season. With Raleigh at 13-1 getting eliminated. Madison certainly back in the mix to be the top seed heading into championship weekend with a win here. Of course, Dallas has the head-to-head with Madison, so Dallas would get the edge if they had gone 12-2, but Dallas had gone 11-3. Repperman the score for Pittsburgh.
Madison with some great defense, but I do have to credit Pittsburgh for doing a great job of utilizing the back of the end zone. As Madison makes it tough to work it up the front, they're perfectly happy to push it even farther. And that takes very confident execution. Repperman had no room backwards. He was either making the play right there or it wasn't happening at all.
The point I was trying to make is trying to look ahead to possible matchups at championship weekend. Toronto in the East finished 11-3 in the regular season. San Francisco in the West, first place at 10-4. Madison hangs on, and the other favorites win. It would be Madison, Dallas, Toronto, and San Francisco, 1-4. Avery Johnson breaking away.
Steven Stern working hard to try and make up that space to get in there and make a play on the disc. As we've seen him do before this game, there's not much you can do when the receiver has steps already and the throw is as perfectly put as it was from Ross Barker.
Madison by 7 with 4:38 to play. If this score stands, it'd be a pretty fun night in Madison, you would think. Graffy lurking, got tripped up by Trimble. With the throw in the air, Graffy's injury takes priority. David Hogan's charging onto the field, asking how can you stop the play? Jaden Scullion for Madison is signaling that should be a goal. Whistle blew when the disc was in the air. Graffy back up, and they are going to call it a goal. Not sure if that's by the rule book, but I think that's the right call in this situation. Trimble will get the assist. Another strike for Toll. And Graffy on the sideline getting some attention. Next game's 2 weeks away in Montreal. Can't wait to see what that crowd is going to look like.
We know we can always count on Montreal to put on a very good program. They, like Madison, have spent a lot of time generating buzz in the community, and the community has responded astoundingly well. We'll never forget our first game that we called in Montreal. The roar of the crowd was absolutely deafening, and you thought, this is what we've always hoped for the sport of ultimate, and it's here.
Pittsburgh, with 4 minutes to go, needs to overcome a 6-goal gap. They do have the disc after the Brown throwaway. Good defense by Nelson, as Mogielski tried to get free in the end zone. And now Pittsburgh punches it in. Heffron from Isaac Smith. 5-goal game with 3:41 to play.
This point demonstrates why Madison was so determined to take away the break side from Pittsburgh, because once they get the disc over to the break side, as we see Fedorenko do here with that backhand, they are so lethally fast to react. Once the disc is on the break side, 1-2 throws, it's almost certainly a score. Madison has done a good job of containing them, not letting that disc get to the break side in the first place, both with the way that they're throwing their man defense on the handlers and also how they're reacting downfield. At that particular point, Pittsburgh able to sneak one through.
Pittsburgh needs a D, and they need it quickly. Wiseman shooting it from Meshnik. He had steps, but the throw's hanging. And the D made by Diamichis.
Just too much airtime on that throw.
David Hogan takes his final timeout with 3:10 to go.
Diamichis had no trouble covering the sizable gap between him and Mashnik simply because that disc hung in the air for so long.
Meshnik thought he had so much space.
And he did.
couple seconds back onto the clock from 3:10 to 3:12. Let's go back to the end of the first half. It was 12-all with 1:19 to go. Wiseman scored with 39 seconds left, and then Pittsburgh had worked it down the field. The crowd was counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when there were 15 seconds to go. Here at Breese Stevens Field, there's just one scoreboard. It was behind Thomas Edmonds. He heard the crowd. He threw a blade. He rushed it. They got the turn. They call a timeout. Kanaki makes the hero catch. Madison's been in control ever since.
Yeah, in a very short period of time, they shifted the momentum in their favor. But we saw that the last time these two teams matched up. And I keep referencing that game for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like both teams were very well prepared for that game, and it showed in their style of play. Madison did have a 4-point lead on Pittsburgh that game, but Pittsburgh was able to close the gap. They're a team who can make adjustments when they stop to think about the necessary changes. But Madison has had more than just strategic adjustments in their favor. They've also simply had energy and momentum, and it's no surprise this Madison home crowd is a force in and of itself.
Madison's defense, I think right now, is perfectly fine with these horizontal throws, forcing Pittsburgh to go across the field. Pittsburgh's taking what's offered to them. Very intelligent defense from Madison this late in the game. Earls knows he has to take a shot, but Graffy's easily up to the challenge. One of those throws that not the same value of a turnover because there's so little time left, you have to take a chance.
Right, they weren't gaining yards, working it back and forth. At this point, they really have nothing to lose but to take those high percentage shots.
Jaden Scullion shaken up, and he calls for an injury. Brian Hart will replace him. Mark Fedorenko jogging onto the field for Pittsburgh, as the Thunderbirds will get a substitution as well. Scullion, the eldest member of this Radicals roster, but he remains in that top 20, even come playoff time. A guy that Tim DeBile trusts a great deal on the field. Graffy endures the bump, flips a lefty backhand to Hart. And Madison is on the march to Montreal. There were certainly plenty of doubts throughout this season. Would Madison put it together after the heartbreaking loss the championship weekend last year, blowing a 7-goal lead against Seattle? But give the Radicals tons of credit. Not only are they heading to Montreal, they are marching there on an 8-game winning streak. Graffy connects with Meshnik, and the exclamation point for Madison.
Not content to let their playoff game end simply running out the clock. Madison played lots of back and forth. Graffy saw one of his favorite receivers downfield, Shrywise, wide open. Why not? Oh, I'm sorry, that was Meshnik downfield.
24 seconds remaining on the clock. The first half of the Final Four is just about set. Madison's going to be the 1 seed. Dallas is going to be either the 2 or the 3, which doesn't really matter too much. Earls. Good looking shot to Fedorenko, and the Thunderbirds score once more, running just 12 seconds off the clock. But it will be too little, too late for the T-Birds, and they'll fall in Madison in the Midwest title game for the 3rd year in a row.
Earls to Fedorenko, a connection that worked so well so many times this game. But as we saw Madison pull away in the second half with their unstoppable defensive adjustments, they simply made it too difficult for Pittsburgh to score consistently and quickly. That point notwithstanding, the vast majority of Pittsburgh offensive points that we've seen this second half have been very arduous, very slow, very difficult.
Megan, we know that Madison wanted a shot at Dallas championship weekend last year. They didn't get it. They had their shot at them in the regular season this year. Did not go well down the stretch. They might get a shot in 2017 too for the 5th consecutive season. The Madison Radicals are the Midwest champs and Final Four bound. Congratulations to Tim DeBile. He just got a shower, it looks like. Little Gatorade bath as Pittsburgh's effort falls short. And the Radicals march on with a 5-goal win. This crowd makes such a difference. And they will pay homage to their loyal and diehard faithful with one final lap of appreciation. Not easy to build something from the ground up. You build it, you deserve to enjoy it. Sterling Kanaki made plenty of plays tonight. Carl Morgenstern did too. Thunderbirds played well for stretches, but in the end, Kevin Brown and the Radicals were too much.
This second half, their offense opened up. They were able to use the entirety of the field with an ease we had not yet seen. Though Pittsburgh tried to stay tight, catches like this from Towel simply wasn't enough for the likes of plays like Peter Graffy's throw to Ross Barkner, throws to Kevin Brown, and the last score of the game from Madison.
Final score, Radicals 27, Thunderbirds 22. And on behalf of our entire crew, we say good night from Breese Stevens Field. For my broadcast partner, Megan Tormey, I am Evan Lepler, bidding you adieu for 2 weeks. We'll be with you in 14 days from Montreal as the 6th AUDL Championship Weekend begins. Madison will be there. We hope you will too. Radicals on their way to the Final Four. And we say good night from a very content Breese Stevens Field.